Do you think you might have an addictive personality? Maybe you don't have to think, you know you have an addictive personality. In this video, I'm going to tell you why having ADHD puts you at a much greater risk for developing an addiction or a substance use disorder. Coming up. Hi, I'm Daniel, and this is Journey to Wellness. And here on this channel, I like to bring awareness to ADHD in adulthood and talk about what it's truly like to have it. If you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on one of my weekly videos. Now let's jump into today's video. Now, some aspects of ADHD, while they may cause some impairments, can a lot of times actually be laughed off. Things like easily being distracted by squirrels, or having a love for all things shiny, or showing up to work 10 minutes late just to find out it's actually your day off. But there's a much darker, more serious side to ADHD that seems like it doesn't get talked about all that much. Addiction and substance abuse is no laughing matter, and just having ADHD puts you at greater risks for both. Interestingly enough, 11% of people that have a substance use disorder also meet the criteria for an ADHD diagnosis. And we tend to begin young. 27% of adolescents with ADHD also have an alcohol or a substance abuse problem. And unlike many symptoms with ADHD, this only gets worse with age. As much as 58% of adults with ADHD also have a substance use problem, particularly alcohol, cigarettes, and marijuana. Hell, even coffee. Now, of course, these substance abuse problems can and often do include illicit drugs such as cocaine, heroin, meth, and many others. Having ADHD not only makes it more likely to have a substance abuse disorder, but to also use more often and in excess of neurotypicals. A good example of this is smoking, which holds a dirty little secret to ADHD that I'll tell you about in a minute. The average smoking rate for Americans is around 20%. This rate doubles to 40% in the ADHD population, and we're more likely to smoke more cigarettes more often, as much as a pack a day or more. So just why is smoking so popular amongst ADHDers? Well, part of it could be genetic. There are certain genes that predispose one to nicotine addiction, and a lot of us have that genetic makeup. But the dirty little secret I mentioned earlier is that nicotine actually treats ADHD. Smoking increases dopamine, and it improves attention and focus. Unfortunately, it just so happens to be carcinogenic and one of the most addictive substances known to mankind. There have actually been attempts to make an ADHD medication from nicotine. However, when the addictive components are removed, it no longer has the effects of treating the ADHD. Now, whatever you do, don't start smoking and use the excuse that you're using it to treat your ADHD. The stimulants on the market are far more effective, safer, and if you're in California, they're cheaper too. Now, I know we've been focusing mostly on substance abuse, but there are other forms of addictions that we can be prone to. A gambling addiction, sex addiction, thrill-seeking activities such as extreme sports or amusement parks, food addiction, video game addiction, online shopping. It all springs from our brain so desperately craving dopamine. And there are a myriad of ways that one can get it, many of them legally, but all of which can develop into an addiction. So what happens when people with ADHD and a substance use disorder or any other problematic addiction wants to kick the habit? Believe it or not, there's no fancy tricks for us ADHDers. The most effective route is some kind of a 12-step program such as AA. Sadly, people with ADHD have lower rates of full remission and are far less likely to complete their programs and relapse more often. Now, while medication could be very helpful to someone who has a hard time paying attention or remain being seated and being patient throughout a meeting, those actively struggling with an addiction may not be the best candidate for a controlled substance. Even after they're clean, many people find it hard to find a doctor who's willing to prescribe stimulant medication to someone who's had past drug history. And what about stimulant medication? Are we in danger of becoming addicted to the drugs that we take? Well, when taken as directed by your doctor, no. They are not addictive in therapeutic doses. However, that can change if they're abused. Now, I will say that we may become reliant, which is not to be confused with dependent or addicted. We rely on our medication to do its job and bring us up to operating speed of someone that's more neurotypical. Just like someone who's nearsighted becomes reliant on their glasses to see clearly. The main difference is, with a reliance, you can stop the medication anytime you want without any withdrawals. You may not like how your day goes without them, but you can stop them anytime you want. With an addiction, you can't willingly stop. And if forced to, you're going to have withdrawals. In fact, there are studies that suggest that taking stimulant medication, particularly in young adulthood and adolescence, can actually help lessen the likelihood that one will start using a substance to begin with. A lot of us wind up using substances and turning to addictions as a means of self-medication because our brains are always looking for that dopamine hit. And a lot of substances provide just that. Take cocaine, for instance. It has similar mechanisms that the stimulant medications that we take do. The difference is it's much stronger and far beyond what we take. Also, drugs like cocaine produce an extremely quick euphoric feeling, which is the high that people get. Prescribed stimulants don't even come close to providing a euphoric high unless they're abused. So, if someone starts trying to discourage you from taking medication because they say it's going to turn you into an addict, just tell them to stick it right in their memory bank so they don't make such a silly mistake in the future. So, question of the day. What is your vice? What's got you in its grips? Let me know in the comments section down below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more, and until next time, take care of yourself and be well.